So with all these drafts going on, what do people want? We want sleepers. And luckily for you, I got sleepers. I got a ton of them over at Sports Illustrated. And I put together an all sleeper lineup. So anyone that I consider a sleeper, a favorite sleeper of mine per position, that's what this team is built on. And my quarterback is Kenny Pickett. And I've been on the Kenny Pickett bandwagon for a while. I'm digging up on Kenny Pickett. He's looked really good in the preseason. There's been one second-year quarterback who's broke out every single year but one since 2015. And I think Pickett's that guy this year. He looks more confident, accurate. Guy was a first-round pick just last year. So I'm all in on him as a QB2 who could be maybe a top 12 quarterback. Better offensive line, better weapons. Allen Robinson now, you know, they have Calvin Austin too as another weapon in the offense. I'm digging on Pickett, man. I'm digging him. He's my top sleeper quarterback for this year. Running backs. James Cook. Now, if the Bills trade for somebody or they sign somebody, then things change. But right now, his value is going up. His stock is going up. I have some people in the high stakes world who are very smart, who know this stuff inside and out. James Cook, go get him. As long as the Bills' backfield stays pat like it is right now with Damian Harris and not much behind him, James Cook is the guy. He's the guy right now to go and get. Second running back in my all-sleeper lineup, Rachaad White. Tampa Bay didn't do anything in the backfield in the offseason. They cut Fournette, and they didn't do anything else. I mean, Chase Edmonds and Keyshawn Vaughn, that's it. And I know they're going to be behind. I know their offensive line isn't great. I get it. Understand totally. But touches are touches. And Rachaad White's got a clear path to workload. So he'd be my RB2 in my all-sleeper lineup. One of my starting wide receivers will be Jahan Dotson. And Dotson could get an uptick in the beginning of the year because Terry McLaurin's hurt, and he might miss the start of the season. Looks like he will. So that helps his value even more. He had 7 touchdowns as a rookie. He wasn't great from a fantasy perspective, very inconsistent. Year 2, baby. And that Commanders up. Listen, Sam Howell looked good. I watched Sam Howell, and I'm not him from North Carolina, but he's looked good. Maybe the Commanders got something there. It's possible. But Dotson's a starter on my all-sleeper lineup. And certainly a guy that you can get who maybe brings back wide receiver 2 value at a wide receiver 3 or flex price in your draft. Also got George Pickens here. I got the Pickens stack. Tass. You like that one?
I do like that.
Stack down in Steel Town. I mean, he popped a few times as a rookie, right? He had 14 plus points 7 times. You know, the other games he wasn't great. But, I mean, if you ask him, he's the best wide receiver on the planet. I think Justin Jefferson and others would have maybe another opinion. But the kid's super athletic, and he's got a rapport with Pickett. If they haven't started creating Pickett to Pickens T-shirts in Pittsburgh, they will. Love George Pickens. Flex, I'm going Jordan Addison. Vikings number 2 wide receiver. They're going to throw the ball a ton. Kirk Cousins is going to throw the ball 650 plus times. They've got Justin Jefferson on the other side, so good luck trying to double team Addison. I think he'll be the best fantasy rookie wide receiver this year in a crazy explosive offense. No Adam Thielen. He's now in Carolina. Sleeper tight end. This one is tough because there's a lot of guys at tight end that you can label sleepers, including a bunch of rookies. So I'm going to go with Dalton Kincaid. And I know, like I keep telling myself, Fabs, as I speak in the third person like I'm Karl Malone, rookie tight ends don't do anything typically. And that's true, but there's like 4 rookies this year who could pop, and Kincaid's at the top of my list. He's going to be running routes out of the slot. He's not an inline guy. He's a move guy. They'll run 12 with Knox. He'll be the guy that runs the routes. I could see him catching 50 passes as a rookie. It's not like they have a locked and loaded 2. Gabe Davis disappointed us last year. Maybe he bounces back. Who's their wide receiver 3 right now? Nobody of note. To me, their third receiver is Kincaid. And Josh Allen throwing the football. That's pretty good. I even got a kicker in here, and it's a rookie, Jake Moody, because kickers are people too. But he's hurt right now, so keep that in mind. He's dealing with like an injured quadriceps. The Niners have like 2 kickers who are hurt. And by the way, let me finish up on the bench, then I'm going to get to the Cowboys. Sleeper bench, Sam Howell, quarterback. Khalil Herbert, Ken Gainwell at running back. Wide receivers, Sky Moore, Romeo Dobbs, and we'll throw Treylon Burks in there because it looks like he's healing up well. Tight end, another rookie, Sam Laporta. You're a Cowboys fan. I'm a Cowboys fan.
Yep.
And we're going to get to my breakout lineup next. But first, let's talk about the Cowboys. Actually, let's talk crap about the Cowboys. When you heard that we traded for Trey Lance, what was your first thought?
That we just gave up a 4th-round pick for a 3rd-string QB.
I don't get it. I've said I don't like Jerry Jones. He's a brilliant man. He's made a lot of money. I wish I was related to him. Maybe I'd be in the will. I can't stand him as a football guy. I can't. I don't get it. What we have one of the best backup quarterbacks in the league in Cooper Rush. One of the best. When Dak got hurt, the guy was 5-1?
Some people thought that he should have stayed being our starting quarterback, which I didn't agree with, but that just goes to show what the temperature on him was. Yeah, he's one of the best starting or one of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL for sure.
I don't get it. The Cowboys drive me nuts. We draft a tight end in the 2nd round. Luke Schoonmaker. What do we need him for? There's other needs we had. And maybe I'll run. Maybe he'll end up being Jason Witten, but I don't think so.
I mean, he's not starting, right? You're talking about Dalton Kincaid potentially being a fantasy weapon, and Schoonmaker is not going to be a fantasy
guy to draft. Yeah, in that tight end room. So, and Trey Lance, and like I've backed him. Like he's had 4 starts in the NFL, and I know he's been hurt, and availability. That's a big thing. You know, what do they always say? Your best ability, availability. Got to be available. He wasn't available. And then the Niners got lucky, and if they didn't draft Purdy, they'd be getting crushed by the media. Crushed.
I think they already are.
It's one of the worst trades in the history of the NFL. It's one of the worst. When you trade 3 firsts to get Trey Lance and he starts 4 games for you and you trade him for a 4th after 2 years, that's awful. Awful. That's right up there with the Herschel Walker trade with the Cowboys and the Ricky Williams trade with the Saints. It's up there. There's a lot of Steve Young getting traded from the Bucks to the Niners. There's a lot of crappy. Ryan Leaf. The Chargers gave up draft capital to move up 1 spot to get him. And we know what happened with Ryan Leaf. He sucked. I mean, I feel bad for the guy. I've met him a few times. He seems like a nice guy. But boy, that's rough. You know, that's like being Bill Buckner. If you go through the streets of Boston, you just don't want to go there. Ryan Leaf, you go through San Diego, you may want to just avoid that area. And he was the Cowboys quarterback for a bit. Remember that? Oh,
yeah,
that was awful.
He's a good dude, though. I've met Ryan. Yeah.
Oh,
he's been able to bounce back.
Awful. Yeah.
All right. No, I mean, I hope we don't have to see or sniff Trey Lance touching the field. I'm a Dak guy myself. I know he catches a lot of flack.
Dak seemed pissed. Maybe this will motivate him even more. Because I like Dak as a late round pick. People are crapping on him. He had 1 bad year. And he missed time because he had 1 bad year. The interceptions were an outlier. If you look at his historical resume, that was an outlier year with the picks.
Yeah.
I'm fine drafting him late. If I could pair him with like Anthony Richardson or Kirk Cousins or Russell or Geno, I'll do that.
Yeah, I mean, if Dak's a top 10 QB in the league, and not talking about fantasy here, they traded for a 3rd-string QB. That shouldn't faze him whatsoever, right? If that's who he is.
But the media, and it's the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Boy, they sour me, though. It's just, why?
Well,
who's our number 2 running back right now? I don't mean to go off on a Cowboys tangent, but, I mean, it is what it is. Who's our number 2 running back right now? Rico Dowdle? I don't know. It's not Deuce Vaughn.
Deuce, baby.
Malik Davis, Ronald Jones suspended for the first 2 weeks. Now, cuts are happening as we speak. I wonder what's going to happen with the running back situation because there's some teams out there that can use some backfield help. Cowboys being one of them, in my opinion. And Fournette and Hunt are still out there. So we'll see. Hopefully nobody signs these guys where we already have an incumbent where we're going to get a mess like with Ramondre in New England and Zeke. Or Dalvin in New York with Brees.
Are you drafting Hunt?
No.
Are you okay?
Kareem Hunt? No, not right now. I'm hoping I could do better than the guy who's not on a team right now. But yeah, I've seen him drafted. 12-team, 14-team league, he'll get picked. Fournette might too. So yeah, I don't get what the Cowboys are doing because you don't trade a 4th-round pick for a 3rd-string quarterback. You don't do it. It's stupid. They must, if Dak sucks this year, which I hope he doesn't, but if he sucks this year, if the Cowboys don't get to where they want to go, which they won't because it's the Cowboys, I don't know. Maybe if Dak is bad this year, you know the rumblings are going to come from the media. You know it's going to happen. And listen, I'm not saying Trey Lance stinks. I don't know if he stinks or not. He's only started 4 games in the NFL. It weren't great. But anyway.
I'll just say this is a really good quarterback class coming up for this next draft.
Right.
There are a lot of talented QBs in college. And I think part of the reason why the Cardinals, we talked about at the beginning, were willing to cut Colt McCoy is they saw Caleb Williams throw for 4 touchdowns, 278 yards, and a completion percentage of 72. So they're locked on their guy. I know Kyler's there right now, but it doesn't mean they can't move him. Caleb Williams this is going to be an interesting draft coming up here. I know it's a while.
If the Cardinals get him, or if they have the chance to get him at 1, Kyler's gone. They're going to trade him. They're going to trade him. So, but I'd like to see him out there. I mean, 4 weeks without Kyler. A lot of people out there drafted him, and I still think it's a smart move. Why? You could put him on an injured spot, sit on him for the 4 weeks, add another player, pick up the Commanders' defense and play them this week or next week. Pick up a backup, a handcuff, whatever. So back to the breakout lineup. Let's start this thing up. Here's some breakout players for you. Quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. He's everyone's favorite breakout quarterback. He had a good year last year. He was top 8. He could be better, like 4,500 yards and 30-plus touchdowns. I think Calvin Ridley's in the mix now. They got Christian Kirk. They've got Ingram, who I think is going to take a step back. Zay Jones. They got one of the best receiving corps in the league. Really do. Zay Jones is a good player too. He had a decent year last year. And they got ETN in the backfield, Tank Bigsby. That offense is going to score some points. And they're in a crappy division. So watch out for Lawrence. He's my QB7 this year. I can easily see him go in the top 5. He's the cliff for me. So you got Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, whatever order you want to put them in. And then you got Lamar, and you got Fields, and you got Justin Herbert, and you got Burrow. He's probably 4 for me. And then it's Lawrence. So Lawrence would be 7 or 8. No one told me math would be involved here in the podcast.
I think it's
so
that's what I'm hearing.
Once he falls in the draft, once he's gone, after that, Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, I can wait. But I want to get one of those 7 or 8 quarterbacks. Running backs, 2 rookies. And I know is there a bigger breakout candidate running back than Bijan? We didn't see much in the preseason. What we saw, drooling, frothing at the mouth at how good he's going to be in the league. And the Falcons are going to run the ball a ton. He's my big breakout guy. He's going to run routes. He's going to catch the ball. He's going to do it all. Maybe Atlanta pops this year. They got a lot of good young players. It's all about Desmond Ridder and the offensive line. If they can protect Ridder and he's decent, they got Drake London, they got Pitts, and Matt Collins is okay. And they got Bijan, their backfield's jacked. I mean, Tyler Allgeier's a 1,000-yard back. Maybe they use Cordero Patterson as a wide receiver a little bit more this year. Who knows? That offense could be good. And they're in a crappy division too. I mean, the Saints probably got the best defense in that division. Carolina and Tampa, I mean, they're not going to be good teams. Then I've got Jahmyr Gibbs. And I go back and forth on him. I love to bring up the curse of Barry Sanders. And I'm not saying that I believe in curses, but I think it's interesting. Every running back the Lions have drafted in the first 3 rounds since Sanders retired has either busted, gotten hurt, or both. Can Jahmyr Gibbs break the streak? Or will he be the next Javid Best, Kevin Jones, Michael LaShore, DeAndre Swift, Kerryon Johnson? He is moving up now. He's a 3rd-round pick. And and even in the high stakes, he's 3rd-round pick. And I'm thinking, Dave Montgomery's still on this team, right? I think so.
He exists.
He's in the prime of his career, right? So, Gibbs is going to have to catch 50 balls to be worth a 3rd-round pick. He's got to. And maybe that's how they're going to use him. Detroit, outside of Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams is out the first 6 games. They're not exactly stacked at wide receiver. So, Laporte is going to get a lot of love, but maybe they're going to use Gibbs as a pass catcher. People compared him to Alvin Kamara. They drafted him wicked high, as those of us from the Northeast would say. 12th overall. Nobody even thought he was a 1st-round pick. But Gibbs he's a breakout guy. In PPR, he could be a real big asset. I don't have many shares of him because I'm scared.
Me too.
I'm like, David Montgomery's there. Like, how high can his ceiling be? But I think he can be an RB2 PPR.
The thing that keeps popping, I have no doubt that he has the talent to finish as a RB1, low end RB1, maybe higher than that. Mm-hmm. But Jared Goff's success is predicated upon running the football between the tackles. He's a play action passer. So David Montgomery is essential to their success as a team. And their offense was incredibly high powered last year. But I just think that those first touches, 1st, 2nd down, they're going to David Montgomery in my head. And then they'll get Gibbs involved, but you're just kind of banking on him breaking out 40, 50, 60-yard touchdowns, which he can do.
Yep.
I just don't want to bet on that. I feel like there's other options in the 3rd round when I'm going into drafts. But I could get burned there. He's going to burn DBs. He could burn me too. I don't know. I think it's a good breakout pick.
One of my high stakes friends said, take the discount on David Montgomery. If I had to draft a running back in Detroit, I'm taking the discount on Montgomery over Gibbs. And I would agree. Wide receivers. This is low-hanging fruit, but sometimes that's the tastiest. Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. Come on. Garrett Wilson was the rookie of the year last year on the offensive side. His quarterbacks were Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, and Mike White. Imagine what he's going to do with Rodgers. Rodgers has almost always had an elite wide receiver in his offense in Green Bay. Devontae, go back to Jordy Nelson. Randall Cobb had one huge year. There's always been a really good receiver in Green Bay. Garrett Wilson's going to be that guy with New York. He's going to be that guy. 2nd-round pick, top 12 talent. Olave, he had 1,000 yards last year, just under 200 fantasy points. Good year. Quarterbacks in New Orleans last year, not great. It was Andy Dalton. Now they got Carr. Carr's an upgrade. He is. Hell, I think Jameis Winston's an upgrade. But they didn't want to play him last year. I don't know why. But even if Michael Thomas stays healthy, maybe that's a good thing for Olave because he's got another guy the defense has got to worry about. He's a big breakout guy this year. And then my flex, I'm going to stick with the position that we've just discussed, and I'm going to stick in that also NFC South, Drake London. So I got 2 Falcons in this lineup. Drake London had some really good rookie games, and he had some really bad rookie games. He averaged more than 17 points per game to start the year, and then after that, he went to hell. And then end of the year, he was better. Averaged about 14 points in his final 5 games. It's all about Ritter, right? We have so many question marks about quarterbacks this year. Can Dotson do it in Washington with Howell? Can Drake do it in Atlanta with Desmond Ritter? What are we going to get from the Houston wide receivers, the Carolina wide receivers? They've got young quarterbacks. What about Green Bay? What's Jordan Love going to be? By the way, he's looked good in the preseason. We'll see if it translates into the regular season, but he looked good. Definitely made me feel better about drafting him for sure. But Drake London figures to lead the Atlanta Falcons in targets, even with Kyle Pitts there. So I'm going to have him as a breakout candidate. Tight end, Chigakonkwo. Breakout tight ends are hard to find because like the top 8 or 9 guys have already kind of done it. I mean, you go from Kelsey down to like Freiermuth. I mean, I don't know if Freiermuth's really broken out. Like he's not an elite player, but he's good. He's not sexy. His ceiling's not high, but his floor is decent. Last year, I mean, for the most part, he was giving you 8, 9, 10 points a game. And at tight end, which is a crap position, you'll take it. So I went with Chigakonkwo. Even though they have Burks and Nuke, I think he could be top 3 in targets. Tannehill likes him. He popped last year, especially down the stretch. He led all rookie tight ends in fantasy points. He didn't score 100. I think it was like 98. But he's a good player, athletic type of guy who I think Tennessee's going to utilize. So he's going to be my breakout tight end. My breakout kicker, let's go with Brandon McManus in Jacksonville. They're going to score a lot of points, which means he'll get a lot of opportunities to kick field goals. But it's a breakout kicker. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm going to have some fun with that.
To go back to Chigakonkwo just for a quick second, before he was a starting tight end for them, they had a guy named Jonnu Smith who played really, really well with Ryan Tannehill, ended up getting a contract in New England because of how well he played. So Tannehill likes the tight end. I like that one.
So the bench for the breakout team, Anthony Richardson. And I know sometimes his throws are going to look like S. And he's going to have some real growing pains as a passer, but he's going to rush for 750 yards and 5 touchdowns. And that makes him a QB1 type of player. So he's a breakout guy. Running backs, I've still got Alexander Madison on the list. The Vikings haven't signed anybody. Clear path to workload. I don't think Madison's Dalvin Cook, but he'll be good. And then, I've done a 180 on Dameon Pierce. I didn't like Dameon Pierce coming into the season thinking that Devin Singletary would eat into his touches. But from what I saw in the preseason, I don't think that's going to happen. And Dameon was on his way to being a really good fantasy running back. Then he got hurt. But I think he can rush for 1,200 yards and 6 to 8 touchdowns. So I'm going to put him on this list. I can audible as well. Omaha, I'm going with Pierce as more of a sleeper breakout. Maybe not a sleeper, but more of a breakout. Houston's got to run the ball to stay in games. They have to. Wide receiver, Brandon Ayuk. I don't think he's reached the ceiling yet. I think he could be better than Debo. He was last year. And it's funny. 2 years ago, we all loved Ayuk and we weren't on Debo. And then it was Debo and his breakout year. Then last year we were in on Debo and we were out on Ayuk and Ayuk was better. So I'm hoping this year, now that we're back on Ayuk, I mean, Debo's still ranked higher, but they're both very close. I wouldn't be surprised if Ayuk was better than him in fantasy production. Christian Watson's on the list and Courtland Sutton now, I'll throw his name out there. Jerry Jeudy's out for a while. We don't know when he's back. KJ Hamler's got the heart issue. Tim Patrick's out. Courtland Sutton get a lot of targets in the first few weeks of the season, especially if Jeudy can't play. And if he could solidify that rapport with Russell Wilson, maybe he becomes his guy. Who knows? But Courtland Sutton's now certainly a more attractive draftable asset in the offense. And then the other breakout tight end, I guess, is Greg Dulcich. Tass, do you have another breakout tight end? I can't find one. True breakout guy who could be a top 10 player at the position. I can't find one.
I mean, if we were talking about him earlier, but if Fergo is the guy, the way that Dak utilizes tight ends.
I see him more as a sleeper, but yeah, I mean, you could throw him in there.
Yeah, it's
I'm
exactly
OCD.
true.
I'm OCD, dude, with my freaking definition.
No, he's a sleeper. He's a sleeper. You're right, but I still wouldn't be surprised, and that's the position for you. Tight end, a sleeper can end up a top tight end, a top 10 tight end, right? That's how it goes.
No question.
No, I like the Dulcich. I mean, someone's got to catch passes, I guess, if Russell Wilson's going to throw
especially
it
early.
More.
The only thing that worries me is that Adam Troutman is a Sean Payton favorite, and that could mess up Dulcich in terms of how many routes he's running and how many opportunities he's getting. But tight end's thin, folks. And I would say this, there's a drop-off for me. You got your studs, which is Kelsey, Andrews, and Hawk. Kittle and Waller are right there, too. They're a step below. Waller now is getting drafted ahead of Kittle because the Giants are going to throw him the ball apparently 350 times this year. And then you got Ingram. And then you got Freiermuth, and at Freiermuth, I'm like, all right, well, even at Ingram, I don't believe in Ingram this year. So there's like 7 guys. Dallas Goedert is a guy I like. There's like 6, 7 guys. And then after that, you punt it down the road. But try to get one of those 6 or 7 tight ends. Goddard and Pitts being probably at the end of that. Those are the guys I want. And I don't know what I'm going to get from Pitts. He's coming off the knee. He was bad last year. But remember,
give him to me.
Kyle Pitts, among tight ends who were the number 1 for their respective teams, no tight end was throwing more uncatchable passes. His quarterback stunk. Mariota stunk. His quarterbacks have not been good his 2 years in Atlanta. Matt Ryan was at the end of his career. Maybe Ritter will be the guy. See, like, I feel like if we knew what Ritter was going to be, or Atlanta had a veteran quarterback, like, say they signed Derek Carr or whatever, I'd feel better about Pitts. I don't know what I'm going to get with Ritter. And Ritter is tied to what Pitts and Drake London are going to be this year. But it's hard to find a breakout tight end, like a true breakout tight end on the list.
I'm always a fan in fantasy of a depreciated asset who has incredible talent. Like, I was huge on Saquon last year. Part of it being second year back from the ACL. And I know the second year back is always better than the first year. But where I got him, 4th round, and I think one of my drafts, I was like, no one's going to take Saquon Barkley. Okay, I'll take him. I'll take the shot because I know what this guy can be at his best. And I like Drake London this year too, but I wouldn't be surprised if Kyle Pitts led the team in target share. He was on the field a lot last year.
Yeah,
if Ritter needs that security blanket, it's always been the tight end for offenses that are run heavy. So I trust the talent there, and I'm willing, if I can get it later in the draft than I normally could. Next season, Kyle Pitts has a great year. Guess what? He's going to be probably the 3rd or 4th tight end off the board. But now I can draft him at the 7th tight end. I'm cool with that.
No question.
I'm really cool with that.
No question. Yep. We'll take a shot. You got to take a shot on tight ends if you don't get one of the 7 or 8 best guys. Folks, later in the week, we're going to continue to cover what's going on around the NFL and as it pertains to your fantasy teams. A lot of people are going to be drafting. So hopefully we helped you out with a bunch of sleepers and breakouts today. Target those guys. Trust me. You're going to build the championship caliber team. All right, folks. So, hey, you got your drafts coming up. We gave you a bunch of sleepers. We gave you a bunch of breakouts. Go get them. Trust me. They're going to help you win a championship, or at least get to the playoffs and contend for a championship. And right here on the Believe Fantasy Football Show with myself, Michael Fabiano, we'll be back on Friday. We'll be talking about ADP risers and fallers compared to what was going on before the preseason and now what's going on in the preseason. We'll definitely be talking about which players you want to target now that maybe you shouldn't have targeted a few weeks back, and vice versa. And everybody out there, be safe in Florida. Like I said, I'm on the other side, so I think I'm good. Everybody be safe. Get to an evacuation area if you have to evacuate. Do that, or make sure your house is all set as much as it can be for this hurricane. I've been through hurricanes. They stink. They're not fun. And just be safe out there, everybody. Have a great rest of the week. Make sure you subscribe to the Fantasy Football Show on Believe with Michael Fabiano, and maybe give us a little love on there in terms of the rating. If you like the show, if you hate the show, well, if you hate the show, don't give us a rating. Hopefully you don't hate the show. What do they give you? 5 stars now? I don't know if I've ever rated a podcast before, but give us as many stars as you can.
5.
Hit subscribe. Tass, we'll see you on Friday. Have a great week, my friend. And everybody out there, thanks for listening to the Believe Fantasy Football Show with Michael Fabiano. We will see you on Friday.